Hello everybody, it's Stuff Around from Around Nerds. We're on to my review of Doctor Who Series 13, or Flux, Episode 3, Once Upon a Time. There may be some minor spoilers ahead, so if you have anything spoiled, turn off now. So, unlike the cliffhanger from Episode 1 and 2, where it just basically almost faded to black and they just woke up and they were fine in a field, this one, the cliffhanger to last episode where Yaz and Vinda are about to have all of time and space sort of flowed through them, which is going to kill him pretty quickly by swarm. The Doctor actually resolves it in a very quick and rapid way, which they need to do because it's a split-second decision. Nicely, we get to see a little bit from the Doctor's point of view, the way she calculates the situation, devises what to do and how to deal with it and how to solve it. And she solves it in a very dramatic way by jumping on one of the other plimps and pushing herself into the time storm. Now, I want to say before we go on much more, this episode is primarily about explaining what's going on. There's a lot of background elements of the story being explained and exposed and talked through and written up. So I can't really talk much about it without spoiling it. So I'll concentrate on more general things, but this will be a short review because I could easily spoil so much gets revealed in this episode. And really that's the episode's about. There's not really so much big main threat, as it were. It is just about explaining what's going on. At least not everything, doesn't explain the whole series, but explains an awful lot what's going on. It's again setting up for future episodes. We find the Doctor in this time storm. We find Dan and Yaz and Vinda there as well, who all get sucked off back to their own little time streams, as it were. And that takes effect of, in Dan's case, it's a case of he's not so much reliving their own past, some of it is, but also some things that haven't happened to him yet. Dan, bless him, he travels all over the place. He finds himself dealing with love interest Diane back on Earth, but some strange things going on. Yaz finds herself back as, well, her normal life. She's in the police. She starts seeing some strange but familiar enemies stalking her. She also meets up with her sister again briefly as well. So she's back in her life. Vinda. Now Vinda's the one we get a lot of explanation because we get basically explained who he is, where his background from, how he ended up on that space station. A lot of background for him, which actually is needed because when someone's on Earth, you can sort of figure you don't need a lot of explaining to you about their society stuff because you know it. Well, or here on Earth, when someone's from a other planet, you need their background explained more in depth. So Vinda gets a lot of time spent how he got up there, and we get to see about his society he comes from, how he got where he is, and how he ended up at a space station. We also, in the Doctor's case, we get to see some of her past. It's no great expense to realise that the past we're seeing is the Doctor's time pretty clearly when she was with part of the, and this is a minor spoiler, when she's part of the division. We get to see the Doctor's time there and her what goes on and what went on with her time there. And we see how that ties in with the rest of the episode. It ties in with the planet time and so forth. And that's always going to tie on the rest of the season. We also see a new character called Belle. She's a survivor after the Flux, and she's trying to find her partner, love person she's after, trying to find them, and she's trying to escape some they're all familiar throws. She's trying to escape Daleks, she's trying to escape Cybermen, also familiar throws, and so forth. So that's really as much as I can say without too much of the plot. I did enjoy it. For an episode where, again, I think like I said it's episode 1, not much happens. Not really a lot happens. It's all just basically background storyline, explain things. It was written nicely and quickly, and Cushman has made it very succinct, and it flows nicely, and it works quite tightly as well. So he gets a lot of information across very quickly, very efficiently, and it works really well. I really enjoyed this episode, and I wasn't bored doing it and so forth. So I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes from here. We get and seeing sort of how post-Flux the world is now looking. So I did enjoy in that regards. Like I say, I can't say much more about spoiling it. So I'm going to stop talking about the episode there. The special effects episode were a little bit. I found some of them a little bit naff. There's like these blue space timey thingies which don't look great. They look like someone's just basically painted blue dots on the screen. I thought they looked a little bit pants, if I'm honest. But then that's possibly a stylistic choice to make him appear more odd in the field. They've kept it very simple. Also, the Doctor and the gang, when they're falling into the time storm, it's just absolutely comedic. They've just said to Jodie, like, sit back and do this, and scream a little bit and pretend you're floating about in time, and it looks a bit silly. And the effect of them being dragged back into their own time streams is like they just scale them down to 0. And it looks, apart from the CGI background, I could quite easily believe it being from something from like 82. It has a very retro sci-fi look to it. So I found that a bit naff, but most of the other effects were fine. There's ships and spaceships, they look absolutely fine. They look a lot more decent. It's just those few little bits that let it down. But yeah, otherwise, a pretty good episode. So I say, I can't really say much more about it really without spoiling it too much. So I'm going to keep it there and say I did enjoy it. I'm looking forward to where we find out where it goes in the future episodes. It's nice to find some information more. We found some more information about the Flux. We found some more information about Swarm and Azure and what they're doing here, and also the person they're with. We find a lot more information about that and how they tie in with the Doctor's backstory. We find out so much stuff about all these little bits and how they all sort of start to link together. I'm looking forward to seeing more of it in the future. So look forward to seeing that on the next episode. So very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I've tried to keep it as spoiler free as possible for you. So apologies if it's a little bit shorter and bland. I look forward to seeing you on my review next week. If you've enjoyed this, I hope you consider possibly subscribing to the channel. You can also check out other things we do on here. So we also do podcasts. The next podcast is next Saturday on the 21st. We also do a games night, the edited version of which go up. I try and do them weekly, but it doesn't always happen. But we've had a couple of us go up for Forewarned, which has been quite good fun. We've been fighting mummies in 2 ancient Egypt tombs. Our next one goes up on Monday of that as well. You can also watch the live streams itself on twitch.tv, in my case, Stuff at Cram, which will be on the 23rd. All being well, they've had some live streaming issues lately. You can also check out our previous podcasts on here, and also check out my reviews from previous series on here as well. So thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next week.